Hello, gorgeous humans, and welcome to another episode of Your Power. I am so excited to have you here as always. And today we are going to be talking about standards. I love this conversation, and you may or may not know that in my Instagram bio, I say that I am for humans who give a fuck about the standards that they have for their life, business, and relationships, and everything in between. And the reason that I say that, the reason that I am so passionate about standards is because the work that I do and the core focus of brain health, nervous system work, and the optimization of your brain and your body really speaks to having the highest standards of yourself, right? And this is always the conversation that I end up having with private clients, with my community membership, in my retreats. We always come back to the conversation around your standards and what those mean to you. And I think I really wanted to have this conversation on the podcast because I want to talk to you about what it really means and what it really looks like to have standards and how to implement those standards into your life and what it looks like for you to do that. I also wanted to talk about what it looks like to raise standards, right? Because this is a question that I actually got on the retreat around, cool, we're working really hard to raise the standards of our life and speak to new levels in our life, but what can you do to raise the standards of others? And then from that conversation comes another really important conversation that I want to have, where I want you to start looking at giving others the opportunity to meet your standards instead of this really fucking toxic trait we have in the personal development industry of just booting people out when they're not up to your level and not up to your standards anymore, right? So I want to have a conversation around, are you actually being the example of those standards, and are you actually allowing others around you the opportunity to meet your level of standards before you decide that they're not meeting them? The first thing I want to kind of say to you, and the first thing that I want you to remember, and probably the main thing that I want you to take from this episode, is that how you do one thing is how you do everything. Right? I want you to take a look at everything that you do in your life. I want you to take a look at every element of every single thing that you do, from the way that you keep your car clean to the level in which you do your skincare every day, to what you're eating, to the conversations that you're having, to the conversations that you're entertaining, to what you're doing in your gym routine. Every single area of your life, right? This conversation is especially important for business owners, because if you're out there and you're someone who's going, oh, I want to have a high quality business with high quality clients and I want to make heaps of money, that's all well and good. But if you're driving around in a messy fucking car, if you are not even bothered of a nighttime to do your skincare properly, if you're going to the gym and you're dropping out on half of your sets and doing easy routines because you can't be fucked, how can you expect your business to succeed when you are holding yourself to such low standards in every other area of your life? The standards that you hold in every single area matter. They matter because at the end of the day, they flow into who you are as a human, and therefore that flows into every single thing that you do, including your business, including your career, including your relationships, right? So if you're fucking yourself over behind the scenes, if you are lowering your standards when no one's watching, if you're not holding yourself to integrity in all areas, then good fucking luck. Because this big thing that you want to achieve, this amazing success that you want to have in whatever area you're focusing on, in all the other areas that you're not focusing on, that's going to be exactly how that's going to turn out. I want you to take a look at the lowest standard that you're holding for yourself in your life. Have a look at all of the areas in which you are letting yourself down. And I want you to start there. I want you to start with the area that you are letting yourself down the most, because the level of that is exactly what the level of everything else is going to be. Your lowest level, your lowest standard for yourself is how the rest of your life is going to turn out. I promise you that. So back to the conversation around, why this is so important in what I teach is because your brain and your nervous system are the core of everything that you do, right? your brain and your nervous system, understanding your brain, understanding your nervous system, and taking the time to optimize both of those things is literally holding yourself to your highest standard. It is literally, that work is literally seeking the most out of yourself. Right? When you're taking the time to understand how your brain functions and how your nervous system functions and taking the time to optimize both of those things, that is literally you saying, I am going to get the most and the highest quality out of myself. And that is the very beginning, right? That is the very core of setting the standards of your life. That is why I'm so passionate about this work. Well, one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about this work, especially for business owners, right? If you look at high-level CEOs and they're running these businesses and they are smashing their businesses and they're smashing their workday and their workload and they're doing all of the things, but at the core, they are actually not focusing on the functioning of their body. They're not actually optimizing their brain. They're actually not figuring out how their body functions. They're not implementing the little behaviors throughout the day to look after those functions. That's all going to come crashing back down to that level. Like everything that you do is all going to come crashing back to that, down to that level. Nothing is sustainable at a higher level if your core, your brain and your nervous system are not functioning at the highest quality, at the highest standard. So focusing on your brain and nervous system, starting with this work, sets you up to raise your standard in every other area of your life. I'll give you an example of that, right? I posted on my Instagram the other day, which a lot of people responded to, and a lot of people jumped in and bought a nervous system audit because of this post. Because I wrote out a list of things that I did in one day and showed exactly what was the opportunity for every single person because of the way that I have optimized my brain and my nervous system, right? So for a really long time, I have focused on understanding the cues of my body. I have focused on understanding my brain. I have focused on the ways to make them both function the best way possible. And because of that, because I have raised the quality and raised the standard within myself, and I have literally tapped into the highest possible quality of functioning that I can, that is able to flow onto everything that I do. Because of that, I was able to achieve this list of things that I did because I raised the standard and the quality of my functioning, and therefore that then flowed into everything that I did. And everything that I did was then of the highest standard because I know how to leverage my brain to work in a way to make it more productive, to make it more creative, to make it more motivated. And therefore everything that I apply it to is going to be of a higher standard, right? Let me read you this list. In case you missed it, let me read it to you. Okay, so I got up at 5 a.m. with my first alarm. I did a 50-minute gym session. I spent 10 minutes stretching. I had a cold shower. I did my full skincare routine. I got 5 minutes of morning sunlight. I spent 20 minutes playing my daily brain games. I checked in and replied to all of my private clients' voice messages. I uploaded and organized video content for my VA to edit. I had a 30-minute one-on-one coaching call with a client in my 12-month membership. I checked for any new posts inside a membership that I'm a part of to respond to. I went to a 1-hour neuroscience lecture. I then wrote and posted a teaching on my stories on Instagram. I then delivered a personal nervous system action plan to a new client over a 25-minute phone call. I then ate my kangaroo in silence with no distractions while I was doing no other tasks. I then once again checked in on and replied to all of my private clients. I went to an hour-long psychology lecture. I went to a 2-hour-long philosophy lecture. I then sat down and ate a snack without any distractions. I then downloaded and organized all of my lecture notes from that day. I wrote copy for and sold my offer on my stories. I wrote a caption for a post on Instagram. I had a one-on-one coaching call with one of my private clients. I checked in on my private clients again. I spent the whole day filming little snippets to make a day in the life vlog. I captured some video footage for my monthly vlog and then organized that into a drive for my VA. I downloaded and organized 12 weeks of readings for 4 subjects in my Remarkable. I sat and ate chicken and salad for dinner without any distractions. I did 10 minutes of box breathing. I then guest hosted a 1.5 hour masterclass and Q&A inside an external community. During that, I'd mic'd and cameraed myself up to capture content for for Instagram. I got home at about 8:40 p.m. I had a quick catch up with my family. I had a shower. I did my full night skincare routine. I drank my magnesium. I read for 30 minutes and I was asleep by 9:45 p.m. That's one day, one single day. And that is my norm. That is my norm because I have done the work on my brain and my nervous system. That is a normal day for me. Maybe not to the length of how long it was because that was a big day, but that amount of productivity is normal for me because I spent the time raising the standards, raising the base level quality of my brain and my nervous system. And so therefore, that now flows into everything that I do. Alongside of all of that, in terms of the tasks that I get done, my car is spotless. My room is clean. I make my bed every morning. I drink 3+ liters of water a day. I eat all home-cooked, non-processed meals. Every conversation that I have with my clients is of my highest standard. I am present in moments with my friends and family. Everything that I do is at a high standard. Every fucking thing. I push myself every gym session. I get at least 1 PB every session. I walk out of every single gym session, whether that is weight training, Pilates, yoga. I walk out of every session knowing that I gave it my all. I do not lower my quality or my standard anywhere. And that is because I have spent the time on my brain and my nervous system, and that is my core foundation of the standards that I hold for myself. That is the foundation of my standards, and so therefore that flows into every single area of my life. And anywhere that I see any standards being lowered, I will step in and raise them. That brings me into what I next want to talk about. The next thing I want to talk about is a common question that I get asked when we have this conversation around raising the standards for yourself, particularly the conversations that you're having, the relationships that you have, the things that you tolerate, the boundaries that you're going to set for yourself. The next question that usually comes is, well, how do I raise the standards of the others around me? Or how do I remove relationships that aren't up to my standard? This industry is so quick to have conversations around removing people who are not up to your standard. And I think that's bullshit. I think that's an avoidance. I think that's an ego protection mechanism. I think that is people trying to avoid doing the real work because it's not hard to end a relationship. It's not hard to start ghosting someone that you don't enjoy conversations with. It's not hard to walk away from someone. What is hard is doing the work on that relationship to bring that standard up. What is hard is having the difficult conversations around the standards that you are going to tolerate. And what is hard is nurturing a relationship, giving it your all, being vulnerable in that relationship before deciding whether or not it's one for you. That's what's hard. That's the real work. Not fucking getting rid of someone because you've decided they're not at your standard. That's not fucking hard. So the first thing that I want to say is give people the opportunity to see what your standards are and raise those standards for themselves. Because until you do that, it's actually bullshit for you to kick them out of your life. You don't know their potential. You only know them as this version, right? You are also this version too. So if you can raise your standard, what is to say that they cannot do the same when given the opportunity? So the first thing I want you to do is I want you to be the fucking example. I actually want you to step in and hold these standards. I want you to decide what standards you are going to hold for yourself and then be the example of that. Do that thing. I don't want you to sit there and go, okay, well, this is the standard of conversation I want to have from now on. And this person always gossips and complains, so I'm going to remove that person. No. You have not actually raised your own standard yet. So what the fuck are you to say that this person cannot come along with you? You're still there too, sis. Like, until you actually raise and hold that standard, you have no place to say that this person can't come with you. So, be the example. And how do you be the example? You embody the fucking standard. You hold yourself to the standard. whatever that looks like. Go to the gym when you say you're going to go to the gym. Push yourself when you say you're going to push yourself. Clean your fucking car. Clean your room. Do your skincare routine. Raise the standard in who you want to be. Some little examples that I'm doing right now. A really fucking random example, but shaving my legs and washing my hair. Well, washing my hair I kind of do anyway, but shaving my legs and maintaining the way that I look in terms of washing my hair, shaving my legs, doing all the things, because I'm maintaining it for me, not just doing it when I have an event on, right? Doing all of the steps in the skincare routine, regardless of whether you just want to go to bed or not. Waiting the 2 minutes before each step of your skincare routine, right? Doing all of the extra little things in your hair care routine, putting a mask in and spending that extra 5 minutes with the mask in, keeping your car clean. Look at the food that you eat. Look at where you're making excuses for yourself. Hold yourself to a higher standard in your Instagram captions and your Instagram copy. Release things that are higher quality. Take the extra time to plan your week, to be productive, to hold yourself to a higher standard. Continually ask yourself, the thing that I'm doing right now, if someone was watching me, if there was a camera on me, would I still do this thing? If the answer is no, if you would feel embarrassed, you are lowering your standards. So the first step in raising the standards of others is being the example. Be the example for them. Give them the permission to see that this is the standard you get to be. This is what you get to do. Because the best way to do that is to show them what they're capable of. Show them their potential. Then the next thing I want you to do is get used to calling people out. Get used to having the difficult conversation. If you're sitting around a table and your girlfriend starts talking shit about someone, call her out. Get uncomfortable. Make it awkward. You don't have to sit there and go, stop being a fucking bitch, stop talking about someone like that. Just ask them, why would they say that? Why do they think that? Probe them into getting really aware of what they're saying. You don't have to approach it with anger or frustration or rudeness. Raise the standard of that conversation by just making them aware of what they're saying. Probe them with questions. Why did you say that? Do you think that maybe you said that because you feel this way? Is there a reason that you feel that you need to say that? Or, I'm not comfortable with this conversation. I'm actually not going to entertain this conversation anymore. Can we change the subject? Get uncomfortable with making things uncomfortable. Hold that standard. So decide what your standards are going to be. Start at your core. Figure out what you want your life to look like. Have a look at all of the little things that you do. Find out where your current lowest standard is. And there is your answer to the level of standards that you hold. Because your lowest standard is your standard. Your lowest standard is how you do everything. Even if momentarily you do this other thing at a high standard, it's always going to come back to this standard. So, at your baseline, raise your standard. Figure out what the highest version of that thing is going to look like for you. So, as an activity, after you listen to this podcast, I actually want you to sit down and I want you to have a look at all of the different areas of your life, right? Have a look at friendships, have a look at finances, have a look at romantic relationships, have a look at business, have a look at your health, have a look at your training, like all of the areas of your life. And I want you to write down what is your highest standard in that thing. What are your expectations of that thing? So for example, going to the friendships one, what standard do you want in friendships? What is your highest standard for this? Cool. You now have the blueprint as to what you are no longer going to go lower than. You literally have the architecture of your standard. And anything lower than that is you lowering your standard. Do that for every single area in your life and then fucking hold yourself to it. Get really, really clear on what your standards look like, what your highest version of that thing is that you desire, and then hold yourself to it. And when you start holding yourself to it, you will not settle for anything less. That is included in other people surrounding you. And if those people don't come with you, when you give them the opportunity to, when you be the example for them, when you allow them the opportunity to come with you, if they don't, then I promise you, it will be actually a really natural progression out of that relationship. You won't actually have to do the cutting out. You are just going to really naturally move away from that person because you're actually just holding yourself to this standard and that's all you're focusing on. And naturally that person will probably fall away. So the difficult thing is not in having the hard conversation around ending the friendship. It's actually holding yourself to the standard and raising that standard and allowing others the opportunity to see that in you. That's the difficult thing. What is also really cool is that you will probably find once you actually start to raise your standard, once you actually start to be the example of who you can be and what you can achieve and what level you can hold yourself to, you actually start to give others the permission to do that for themselves. Right? There's probably a level with these people that you are considering, that they may not want to come, they haven't really been given the opportunity, may not necessarily be the person to raise their standards, but that's only because that is what they've allowed of themselves so far. So when you are actually the person who raises the standard in what you're doing or the standard of conversation that you'll have or the standard that you hold for yourself in your own success, you are potentially giving others the permission to do that for themselves. So not only are you giving the opportunity for them to join you in that standard, but potentially they're just waiting for that one person to call out the bitching at the table. And that is how they've felt for a really long time. And you've now given them permission for them to do that too. So it gets to be a really cool opportunity where you get to be the person that sets that permission. You get to be the person that allows others to step into their potential. You get to be the permission that shows others what they're capable of and what standards they're allowed to hold for themselves. And that gets to be really fucking cool. So that is all for today's episode. Thank you so much for being here. And I am excited to hear about the standards that you've decided for yourself and how that has had a flow into everything that you have done. So come and let me know in my DMs because I'd love to hear it. And as always, if you could do me the absolutely gorgeous favor of following, subscribing, whatever that looks like on whatever platform you are consuming this, that allows me to get this information out to more people, which means that I can both change and save the lives of as many people as I can. So thank you for being here. Thank you for giving a shit about your brain and your nervous system. And I will see you next week.